Hannah.
I'm Anissa.
Hi, I'm Tariyé Peterside.
And I'm Nushy Rose. Welcome to episode 45 of Ethnically Speaking, the show where we discuss everything that affecting the UK's highly melanated communities, from pop culture to current affairs and everything in between. We always keep it 100, and today we'll be talking about the predictive power of horoscopes and astrology. It's not uncommon for people to check their horoscopes to see what the day, week, month, or even the year might have in store. And yet, not one astrologer managed to predict the pandemic. Despite this, in the last 12 months, demand for predictive professionals, such as tarot card readers or astrologers, has skyrocketed, leaving many wondering, are they just trying to figure out these crazy times? Is there truth in it? Or should we be wondering if there's something more sinister at play? So my questions are, can psychic or astrology readings ever truly be accurate? Should we trust our faith in them and use them to kind of decide what to do with our lives or make big decisions? Or are these just pseudoscience and we should probably leave them where they are and where they belong in a magazine? So yeah, I'd love to know what you guys think.
I feel like I'm so the wrong person to answer this question. The reason why I'm saying this honestly, I've held pretty strong views on this whole psychic horoscope stuff for a very long time. I'd probably say up until last year sometime, until I came to the realization that for some people, horoscopes and astrology, I guess in general, is their way of life. And I just didn't want to be unwelcoming to other people's ways of life. So that's when I kind of pivoted and went, okay. Personally, for me, I am not a believer of the psychics and horoscopes and that kind of stuff. I contradictorily do believe that people can tell the future. But for me, it just depends in the context. And the reason why I say it depends in the context is because, I don't believe the lady on the hotline is going to tell you your future. I just don't. And I really don't believe that book in W.H. Smith is going to be able to predict oh my gosh, you're an Aries and it's April 25th. So today your day is going to be I don't believe that. However, I do believe that some people have, visions or dreams and, I'm a believer of deja vu and things like that. So I think it depends in context. And also I'd say, I'm religious, so I do believe people prophesy. So for me, it's all within context. But I don't think people should put their faith in those things like the psychics and the hotline, especially when they have to pay for it, because there's something to me that's when the sinisterism comes into it, when they're paying for it. And that's where it gets all a bit shady, something in the milk ain't clean, honey, when it gets to that point for me.
Girl, I love your one-liner. Something in the milk ain't clean. I love that. I'm going to steal that one. So I'm with Anissa. I don't believe in horoscopes. I just, the fact that, as Nushy said, not one of them were able to predict the pandemic makes us probably need to start asking some questions about, how strong. Because I saw one psychic or person who, interprets horoscopes of the zodiac saying, the pandemic was too big for anybody to really get a grasp on or to predict. I'm like, there's something fundamentally wrong with that. It's so big, you should have seen it coming from a mile off from the stars and whatever. But I think for me, in terms of horoscopes, there's just so many of them. If you can interpret it, why are there so many different understandings of what the stars are saying? You can read 5 different horoscopes for one day or for the week, and they could all be different even if you're only reading your own star sign. So for me, I feel like it's kind of problematic for me.
Yeah, I don't really believe in horoscopes. I just like logging onto Twitter and seeing various people directing their shade according to star signs. And they'll be like, oh, you see how these Aries men do? And I'm just I don't even know how Aries men purportedly do. And yet I'm here for the dragging. Drag them. But yeah, I don't believe in being able to predict the future or anything else. Oddly enough, I'm one of those people that believes that history is the greatest predictor of anything, because for me it's not so much that the psychics couldn't see the pandemic coming. It's a case of, okay, but like, you know that roughly once every 100 years, something like this happens. If it's not Black Plague, then it's like the Spanish flu. Like, so you should have known. You should have read the history textbooks and figured this out. Like, but yeah, as long as you're not paying, I think it's just like a harmless little bit of fun that people engage in, just as like a little like point of comfort, in the same way some people like have lucky amulets, or like they rub like the rabbit's foot, or like, you know, they like have their little routines that they do. It's not necessarily because they believe in those things, but it's just like a mechanism by which they just like remove anxiety, you know?
So I've been to see a psychic twice. And both times I would say, it's the first time I paid. I got actually a good deal. I got a half price deal.
Was it the same person twice, Nushy? Was it the same person?
No.
Okay.
The first person was a mystic called Tariyé, who lived in a bedsit in Notting Hill. And I got a deal for me and my then boyfriend because I was starting a new job the next day. And anyway, so I went up to this sort of kind of covered room. We went through these sheets. And when I arrived, she honestly had a crystal ball on the table, and she waved a cinnamon stick in my face and said, you know, inhale the juice of the future. So I did a lot of sniffing, and then I sat down, and she said, you need to hold on to this big crystal with one hand and this crystal ball, put your other hand on that, and they're going to absorb your energy and they're going to read your mind. So I was like, you know, something to do on a Sunday afternoon. I didn't have high hopes, obviously, and I wasn't, you know, they weren't increasing as I experienced this thing. But afterwards, she said, okay, you need to get this man, aka my then boyfriend, to leave the room. She's like, now she put her hands on those. She goes, he has to get out. And so he left, and she said, I can tell you, this man is not your soulmate. You have to leave this man. She said, he will drag you down. And then she said, okay. She goes, now let me tell you what the crystal's saying. So she did her thing with the crystal. And she was like, the crystal is telling me, very much didn't know anything about me, you're starting a new job tomorrow. This job is in a big building and you're very excited about it, but this will not be your forever job. She's like, you need to move jobs immediately. I don't see this as in your future. And I was like, this, you know what I mean? It was too strange that she knew those two things. But it was more that the takeaway I got was when she said that about my boyfriend, for me, I was like, she's so right. Not because she'd said it, but it clarified probably thoughts I had in the back of my mind, you know? And so it was valuable for just me figuring out what I actually secretly thought, or like my subconscious as well.
And the thing is, like, just with your story, Nushy, like, that's why I said, I do believe that there are people out there who can tell the future and can predict things. But for me, it's all about context. Like that's what I know. It sounds strange to say, but it's all about context for me. And like, look, have I dressed up as a psychic for Halloween? For sure. Yeah. And then did I make predictions when I was the dressed up psychic? Yes, I did. I was the prediction true. Absolutely. And in that moment, for a second, I thought to myself, oh my gosh, am I a real psychic? But I was like, no, these are probably just really good guesses, right? But so I think with a lot of the time, sometimes it's either really good guesses or people give like general information that you can kind of attach yourself to, especially if you already had that thought in your mind. Obviously, your experience is completely different, Nushy, because it was quite specific with your experience. But that's why I said, I do believe people can tell the future, but it just depends on the context for me.
I think it's
like,
really
I agree with you. Also,
no, go ahead, my love.
what I was going to say is that I think I so agree with you, because I do think sometimes these things are so blown out of proportion. So one of my favorite celebrities of all time is the Bulgarian mystic Vanga. Oh. And so, but I mean, I don't like look up to the women, but I just find it interesting how people have twisted everything she said. Like every single year on New Year's Day, you'll get these headlines which are like Baba Vanga's predictions for the year. And she died in 1994 she died in the last century. And yet people still twist her words, and they'll be like, it's the same thing to do with Nostradamus. And both her and Nostradamus have these huge followings of people that reinterpret everything she says to fit the present. And that's when I think it goes too far, because it's so ridiculous. And everything she said is like, cryptic. So it could mean anything, you know, like it should be like the two birds were flying through the sky and one falls in the sea and the other one explodes into a fish, right? Obviously that can't be literal, but that can mean many things. So kind of confusing.
Yeah, like I so get your point about like Nostradamus, because it's the same thing. Like he published all of like these prophecies and stuff that are like quatrains and like it's just like little 4-line little predictions, but they're all so vague that they could apply to literally anything. He's like, oh, there were 2 rocks and one rock drove the other rock into the sea. And it's just like, that could literally be anything. That could be any number of wars or conflicts that have happened throughout how many 500 or 1,000 years of human history.
I think it's
exactly.
I think it's all just really interesting because the things that I was reading about like horoscopes and psychics, I think it's really interesting because I would class myself as a Christian. Not even class, I'm a Christian. And whether people believe in God or not, I think this idea of there being something out there is what people are really holding on to. And it seems like in various different means and methods, so spirituality, psychic, zodiac, Kabbalah, whatever it is that you want to hold on to, because people want to feel like they're not alone, that something is guiding them, that someone understands when they don't understand. And I think that's the reason why we're seeing horoscopes and things really explode during the pandemic, which I find humorous considering no psychic predicted it, because I'm like, guys, we need to think about going them for advice about how we deal with the pandemic, considering they didn't even know it was coming. But one psychic was saying, a lot of the people that come just want comfort. They just want to talk to someone because we live in a world where we are just not in control. And I think for me, that scares the hell out of me sometimes, that these situations are going on that we don't have control. We can be hopeful that Boris is going to end things soon with the pandemic, but we don't know what the end of the year can hold. We thought everything would be done in 2020. And people are searching for an idea of comfort, to know that they're not alone, that they don't want to be lonely, that there is some order to things, that things just aren't happening mindlessly, and that someone has the answers. So I can definitely understand why people want to go out and use psychics and horoscopes, because I think it makes this, it gives people more of a feeling of like someone knows what's going on.
Yeah.
And I also think it makes them feel like they're a part of something. And the reason why I say that is because I feel like now it's almost trendy to like really be in like to horoscopes and stuff. Like every minute I see someone texting saying, tweeting like Mercury's gone into retrograde, and I'm just like, I don't even know what that means, but people are always saying it, and it's like everyone's like, oh, I'm a Leo. What sign are you? Water sign? I'm a fire sign. Like it's almost become like a really cool, clicky thing to do. And as I said before, like I had very strong opinions about it, but I really wanted to be open to other people's way of life. So last year I met someone this young woman who told me she was really into it and blah, blah, blah. And she wanted to do my chart. So I was like, oh, I don't really know what that means, but okay, you can do my chart, honey, if that's what's going to make you feel better. Really, I can't even remember what was on the chart because it was just null and void. I don't even specifically remember what was on the chart. And I thought to myself, for everyone, as soon as she'd done my chart, everyone around me was like, do my chart, do my chart, do my chart. It's just this idea, I think, of just like belonging to something. And at that point, I then thought to myself, and it might have been a bit sexist, I thought to myself, is this a woman thing? I feel like I don't hear men talking that much about horoscopes. I was really like, I only feel like the women in my life, but then I was, what's the word? Horrifically proved wrong in that bit. And I'll leave it at that.
The thing is, it's like, I don't think it's inherently like a woman thing or anything else, because the thing is, it's like men have all manners of mechanisms to create comfort for themselves, same as anybody else, you know what I mean? So if it's not what star sign are you, then it's all this talk about like, oh, are you an alpha male or a beta male, or are you a sigma male? The sigma male does this and therefore you're like that.
Sigma male in my life.
Oh, it's a new one. They're working their way through the whole Greek alphabet. Like, listen, Sigma male only just started making the rounds on social media like in the last like month. And I'm like, what? Which one is now Sigma male? Please, But it's the same kind of thing of like, you're this kind of personality, and therefore when this happens, such and such and such. It's the same mechanism, you know?
But then do you think it's like the same as if people do like Myers-Briggs or the Enneagram, or those kind of personality tests, and say like, I'm an ENTJ or things like that? Do you think they're kind of linked as well?
Yeah, I definitely think so, because I think human beings are like really random, and we're also creatures like just on this little blue dot through this really random and sometimes uncaring universe. So it's too scary to comprehend. So we give ourselves any like means necessary of trying to make it just a little bit less scary, just a little bit more easy to navigate, just a little bit less mind-boggling, and therefore less avenues for fear. You know what I mean? And it's like, and I think we're seeing a resurgence now, because it's like, I was actually watching this YouTube video where someone was talking about how it was that people even came up with horoscopes in the first place. And she said that like actually interest in horoscopes peak in times of great upheaval, and they've done so throughout the 20th century to now. So the first like real thing of like horoscope interest and stuff, it was after World War One. You know, and it was during the midst of the Great Depression as well, and then after World War II, and then during the Cold War, and then during all these times of great upheaval, social upheaval, political upheaval, and like so many things just being in flux. And anytime like something is happening that has people just completely questioning everything that they thought they knew, people start to look to the stars and think, oh, maybe there's something here that will help me pass it all out.
Yeah, look, you were speaking my language on that one, because, and as we are now in the current situation in 2021, it is a time of massive upheaval. Me and my husband were trying to book a holiday, and we're just like, we don't know when, we don't know how, we don't know to where, like nothing is concrete. And as human beings, we like routine. As much as we might be spontaneous, we like routine. We like to know things, we like to plan. And it's a very unmooring time at the moment. But I want to say that like in terms of preparing for us to talk about this, I read my horoscope today. And I'm very interesting, because I would say I'm a Scorpio, but because I'm the last day of the Scorpio, sometimes, depending on the horoscope, I'm a Scorpio or a Sagittarius. So I read this.
They say you have a Sagittarius rising in the horoscope.
Really?
World.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because you're Scorpio in the rising. I know.
So like, I read the Sagittarius one, and I was just like, that doesn't sound like me at all. It's not talking about anything that's going on my day. I read the Scorpio. I was just like, I could probably read into this one a little bit more. And I think trying to say that you can read a Scorpio star sign or any star sign that's going to talk about everybody, because I don't know, but I read the couples one, and apparently me and my husband are very well suited, and we have all the components to make it work. So take from that what you will. I'm a hold on to that one. But that's the point. People say people only hang on to the good of their horoscopes. The horoscopes are never saying you're going to have the worst day of your life and you're going to want to hurt yourself. And the relationship that you thought, you know, I know you're engaged, but he is not the one, sister. Like, they don't say that. They speak in floral terms, and people want to hear good things. So...
but you see, that's why
biased.
I think sometimes, I know you guys were talking about like horoscopes, you know, helps comforts people and fear. Sometimes I think it's a little bit bred out of narcissism and wanting to feed their ego, like personally for me, because it's kind of like, as humans, it's also sometimes like why we do those personality tests. We want to know what about me, what makes me special, what makes me tick, what's different about me, and then like feeding your ego. Oh my gosh, yeah, I'm gonna have such a good day. And like, I think there's a little bit of it that's quite narcissistic, because you drum it to be so personal to yourself. You give it as an explanation, you know. I don't know if you listen, I've been around a lot of horoscope psychic people, as I've said. So they will say things to me like, yeah, you know, I'm just a fire sign, so that's why I'm so passionate, and that's why I talk about things like this. And it's like, no, bro, maybe you are, this is just you without the horoscope. And so I think people use it to feed like their ego sometimes, the narcissism, and that's what I can't take. I just can't take it.
Yeah.
Although people who don't date other people because they're like, you don't match my star sign. So the first question is, what sign are you? I'm just like, my friends, let's just talk about compatibility, because like, I already said on the show, I don't think there's a million great men out there. That's my opinion, and I'm going to sit on that all day. I'm going to sit on that all day. There's not a million of them.
I've got to admit that I'm not the what star sign girl you, because I don't believe in star sign, but I do ask, do you believe in star signs? And so my question is that because I'm not dating a man that does. So I always ask you, do you believe in star signs? If he says yes, it's an absolute no. Or if you're speaking to me and you ask me what my star sign is, I'm like, okay, it's enough of the conversation. And it's not because I'm so against horoscopes. It's because I already know we're living two different ways of life, two different beliefs. We're not going to be compatible. So I'm out of here. And I used to tell my male friends all the time, like, men are really into this horoscope things. Because at first I didn't believe it. Then I was like, no, men are into this. And my male friends are like, no, Anissa, they're not. So just a quick story time. I was out last year in the club with my friends, who are hollering, ha, ha, ha. Some of my male homies were in the club as well. They were doing their own thing. We came on separate accords. And do you know what? So many men kept coming up to me and they kept asking me about horoscopes. And I said, this is a sign.
Your secrets.
I said, this is a sign. I said, my male friends don't believe when I'm telling them that men like horoscopes and keep talking to me about it. So the last guy who came up to me and asked me what star sign I was, I said, you come with me. And I grabbed him. We went to the club. We went to the part of the club where my friend was. And I said, I don't want to say my friend's name. Let's, for example, call him Robert. I said, Robert, meet John. John has just asked me what my horoscope is. John, go on. Tell him what you just said to me. And then he said it to Robert. And Robert was like, oh my gosh, you believe in horoscopes? And I was like, yes, I'm telling you, men believe in horoscopes. Like we went, do you know what? No, I feel so sorry for John because obviously after that, I don't know what happened to him after that because I just brought him to Robert to prove the point. But that's the thing, I can't.
It's because Mercury was in retrograde, girl. That's what happened. Mercury was in retrograde.
It's horoscopes. It's not for me. It's not for me.
Oh, although I do have a really like fun, like historical-ish kind of tidbit that ties into like celebrities and like horoscopes and stuff. So like the reason the Kardashian family actually like moved to the United States is because because one of their ancestors had like a family mystic or something that told them to like cross the Atlantic, and that's why their family's in the States. And I'm like, for real?
It worked for somebody.
I guess so.
Well, you know, even a broken clock is right twice a day. So you're gonna luck out on some piece of information if you keep throwing out some.
Yeah, if you keep it vague enough, you'll eventually like strike gold. Like, because with like the relationship ones, it's always like there's like turbulent waters or something. And it's like, that could mean anything. That could mean like a fight. It could mean you're on a plane and there will be turbulence. It could mean anything.
My mum over lockdown taught me, so I came back home for a few months and my mum taught me tarot card reading. And so the same time she was teaching me tarot card reading, which I would be happy to do for anyone at any time, she also was talking about her experiences with psychics. And so she is 62. No, she's 62. And when she turned 60, she had a huge birthday party for all of her friends and said, just so you know, I'm going to die at the age of 62. So obviously enjoy me while you can. Like obviously give me the gifts and catch up with me, have a phone call. The reason she believes this. So at the moment, we've got about 2 weeks left. So we'll find out together whether this turned out well or not. But she went to 2 psychics, one when she was 20 and one sort of 10 years later. And both of them said exactly the same thing to her, which is you'll die at 62.
Literally, I really hope that is not true. Honestly,
same.
I mean, Nushy, you were talking about it like we're going to live stream it, which we are not. So when she said,
I don't.
In 2 weeks, we mean we want an update.
Yeah. I mean, I don't believe in any of this in this stuff. I enjoy the theatrics of it. I enjoy the kind of experience. I don't believe that these two people are able to see the future. Yeah, but I just find it interesting, though. Like all her life, my mum, who I'm sure also doesn't read, like thinks it's pseudoscience, but at the same time does do astrology, does read people's stars, like star signs, and has this massive book where you can see people's rising signs, their birth signs, all their different whatevers, and yet like is very kind of rational, all these types of things, and yet her whole life she's carried this thing, which is she's going to die at 62. I don't believe it. I think she's crazy, but it's interesting because even she's convinced by these predictions.
Now, you see, what you need to do is you need to like get the tarot deck and like do a reading and say, see, they were wrong.
Do you find though that the tarot card readings are always correct, or do you also believe that there's kind of like a margin of error, or where people need to be a bit relaxed about the interpretation? Or do you feel like the tarot cards are specifically right every time?
So I would say that my own tarot readings, I wouldn't say I was truly expert. So often I myself am confused while I'm giving a reading, but it's enjoyable to see people's reactions as you tell them what's going to happen to them. But I think, sometimes they're super specific. So two things I would say. The first is that coming back again to tarot and back to my mother, there were two readings she did. So there was one time when she first started learning, and I think she was about 25, and she was in a pub. And she got out the cards and was doing things. And this busload of American tourists pulled up. And this older American woman runs into the pub and says, "Oh my God, tarot, I love tarot, do my cards." And my mom was like, I'm not very good. She's like, come on. Anyway, so this happened and she does the tarot readings. And she said, "I don't understand why I'm seeing what I'm seeing. But according to these cards, you have lost 4 men." And the woman then said, and she's like, they're like around us kind of thing. The woman then revealed that her husband and 3 sons had passed away in the past 12 months. And this trip, the reason she was on the trip was to get over it. So that was the first story. The second is that, again, so around the same time, I don't know how immersed she was in the tarot world, but my mum was in the office doing these readings. And her friend, who was her age, so again, kind of mid-20s, he was always hurrying around, wasn't really, had no interest in like a committed relationship. And he walked up to her and was like, "Please, like, do my cards, Anyway, so she's like, fine. When she read his cards, she said, "I don't understand why they're saying this, because this is so, it's just not how you are. But it says that you have met your future wife." And he said, "That's interesting, because the question I asked you, I met this girl last night and I think I'm going to marry her." And my friends, to this day, 35 years later, they are still married.
Wow.
So.
Wow.
As I said, I do believe, but it's just the context. That's what I'm saying.
No, man, I'm just not here for the occult. I'm not here for the occult on any level. But I respect everyone's right to choose. And if that's your thing and you found some answers, then we all need a bit of comfort and guidance in the world.
So thanks for watching and listening, Ethnically Speaking. Please let's keep the conversation going. And we want to know, have you ever been to a psychic? Would you go? Did something horrific go wrong? We want your stories. So please leave them in the comments below for us to continue scratching our heads over. If you want even more from us, just click the link in the description. Please subscribe to our email list. It's all in there. You can get extra ethnic delivered to your inbox every single week. If you want a summary of what we've discussed, which I'm sure you do, since we are equally perplexed about the occult, whether we should get into it or whether it's just something to be left alone, please head over to unitedmelaningroup.com/ES045. And there's a link also in the description below. If you're watching on YouTube, please do not forget to give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. And of course, hit that notification button so that you never miss an episode. We'll be back on Friday. But until then, of course, wear your mask, wash your hands, keep your distance, and please stay safe.